It is late October and things are already pretty interesting. I know this week's main story has been Apple's launch of the M4 Macs, which, no worries, we're gonna cover, but that'll be as soon as they get all announced, because it seems to be this odd staggered launch. First we saw the new iMacs, and now we have the Mac Mini, and we hear there's actually more to come. But the thing is, notice the timing. It happened a week after the Qualcomm Snapdragon Summit, where we got to see the Snapdragon X Elite, which, gave us a lot to talk about. We covered the new chip last week in detail, so make sure you watch that video, but obviously that announcement has already snowballed what most companies are doing with the chip. But then again, Samsung is Qualcomm's major player, so much so that we've spent the last few years receiving a 4 Galaxy version of it. Right now, if you want to get the highest spec Snapdragon X Elite laptop, for example, it's a Galaxy book. So of course we want to know the details on how this launch is going to work for Samsung, and especially when we could see some Exynos blend in along with a third player we're going to talk about soon. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of ground to cover. I'm Jaime Rivera with Pocketnow, and let's do a follow-up deep dive of the Galaxy S25 series now that we know more from the Snapdragon Summit. Let's begin today's video talking about specifications, because Samsung has always been a mixed bag about this. And listen, I can understand given the company's scale. Just recently, we saw the company launch its entire tablet lineup with Dimensity 9300 Plus chips, which are pretty powerful and began this all big core approach of processors last year. So yeah, that was actually a hint, as we did see the company's Dimensity 9400 get announced a week before the Snapdragon Summit. For the last couple of years, Samsung has been using a mix of Qualcomm and Exynos chips depending on your region, and I know this has been very controversial. The Exynos chip was dramatically less powerful than what Qualcomm was offering, and I'd say it wouldn't be until last year that the experience has been on par. Notice I say experience though, as things did get far better in performance, but it still lagged behind Snapdragon in capabilities. Can you imagine how things would be now that Qualcomm is completely reinventing Snapdragon to be even more powerful than its own laptop chips? For the Galaxy S25, it's expected that Qualcomm chips will continue to be the primary choice, with the new Snapdragon 8 Elite set to power these devices, though we don't necessarily know if there will be a 4 Galaxy version of it. I mean, for the first time ever, we did see TM Rowe participate in the Snapdragon Summit as part of the keynote speakers, so that alone gave me high hopes that this was going to be an exclusive partnership. Interestingly, it seems things are gonna veer in a completely different direction. Reports have it that Samsung might actually introduce a third chip option with the Galaxy S25 lineup. While in the United States, models will traditionally stick to Snapdragon and some other regions have Exynos, rumors suggest that some S25 models may include MediaTek chips, expanding the chip variety. Take this with a grain of salt, as it's not coming from a reliable source, but hey, listen. If it were me, I would prefer a Dimensity 9400 any day over the Exynos 2500. There are comparison benchmarks already that show that while the Snapdragon 8 Elite has better clock speeds than the Dimensity 9400, the differences aren't major, as MediaTek continues to bet on the all-big core approach for a second year. Heck, the GPU of the Dimensity has much higher GPU frequency, and it seems to perform better in certain scenarios, believe it or not. Even if that Exynos 2500 has 2 more cores, the Dimensity and the Snapdragon continue to be better choices. We also heard rumors that Samsung is struggling with the production of the new Exynos, so if this is the first year where we'll see a dual Snapdragon and Dimensity launch, listen, I'm all for it. Another thing you should care about is upgrades in memory, as the Galaxy S25 Ultra will reportedly feature 16 gigs of RAM, up from the S24's 12 gigabytes. This increase in RAM will likely improve the phone's performance with AI-powered tasks, making AI-based features run smoother and faster on the device. We don't have details on how the base model will come equipped, but particularly the smaller S25 will most likely get a bump to 12 gigs, up from the 8 last year, which I know is totally meager. Now let's switch back to design as we have some interesting updates. According to recent leaks, the Galaxy S25 Ultra is expected to look a bit different from recent Galaxy Ultra phones. First, we discussed the possibility of curved rails on a previous video, but now it seems it'll also have more of a curved design on the back as well. Remember how the Galaxy Note 5 was flat on the top and curved on the back? Yeah, it might be a year for another throwback. One of the leaks also shows the right side of the phone and how it might look like. Reports also claim that even though it's thinner, the display might be slightly wider, which could make the phone more comfortable to hold. Additionally, the bezels could be even thinner, similar to what Apple is doing with the iPhone 16 Pro Max. An odd change, though, is that apparently there won't be an improvement in screen brightness. Samsung is likely using the same type of M13 OLED display as the Galaxy S24 Ultra to keep costs down, which is already a step back from the brighter M14 displays that are currently on the iPhone 16 Pro and the Google Pixel 9 Pro series. Now, as for colors, the S25 Ultra is expected to come in natural titanium, black, blue, and green, and Samsung might also offer some exclusive colors through their store, though it's unclear what those will be. Now, last but not least, let's talk about the cameras, if we could call those an upgrade. The Galaxy S25 Ultra will reportedly come with a new and improved ultra-wide sensor. This 50-megapixel module, called Samsung ISOCELL JN3, has a pixel size of 0.7 microns, which should capture more detail in each shot, making it especially useful for ultra-wide photography in low light, considering the binning. That being said, apparently this is the only upgrade, and yeah, I'm talking about the S25 Ultra. The main camera will still be the 200 megapixel ISOCELL HP2, though take that with a grain of salt, as we did see Qualcomm tease how it's been working with Samsung on increasing performance from its ISOCELL offerings, and I kinda got the impression they meant newer ones. But in case I heard that wrong and we stick to the old, the source did mention that the old HP2 could be produced with a slightly newer process, which may improve performance in some ways. The 3x zoom camera may also stay the same, using a 10 megapixel sensor from Sony, which is the IMX 754, and the 5x zoom camera, a 50 megapixel sensor from Sony, which is the IMX 854, remains unchanged as well. Originally, there were rumors that the 3x zoom lens would be upgraded, but this is no longer the case apparently. To conclude, it seems that Samsung is betting hard on more delightful hardware and the improvements in compute power of these chips in order to push software. It kind of makes sense, as the push we're seeing in smartphone chips is really outpacing anything we've seen before. Apple, Qualcomm, and MediaTek are all pushing their chips to provide functionality we had never seen before, so it could just be that we don't need new hardware, as Google pretty much proved years ago with older sensors. That being said, there's only one way to find out, and it might just be January 2025 for these new Galaxies. Here's to hoping we don't necessarily get those Exynos chips. Let me know what you think about this new batch of rumors in the comments down below, and while you're at it, follow us on social media and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this one. You can also follow me on my personal handles to see me wonder where things are going, now more than ever. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like what you saw. I'm Jaime Rivera, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.